Once upon a time, in the heart of a small village in South Africa, there lived a young woman named Lerato. Lerato was known for her skills in creating beautiful homes for the villagers, making each one feel warm and inviting. Despite her talent for bringing joy and comfort to others, her own heart often felt cold and empty. Lerato was married to a man named Thabo, who was the foreman of a large construction company in the nearby city. Thabo was known throughout the village as a man who worked very hard. He was always up before the sun, leaving their small, but lovely home to oversee the building of roads, bridges, and tall buildings in the city. Thabo took great pride in his work. He wanted to provide a good life for Lerato, so he worked long hours to make sure every project was perfect. But as much as Lerato admired Thabo's dedication to his work, there was something that made her heart feel heavy. Thabo was away from home so often that it sometimes felt like he was more a guest in their house than her husband. He would leave early in the morning and come back late at night, often too tired to talk or even share a meal. When he was home, his mind seemed to be somewhere else, thinking about the next big project or the problems he had to solve at work. Lerato loved Thabo deeply, but she often felt like she was invisible to him. She would prepare his favorite meals, hoping they could sit down together and talk, but more often than not, he would eat quickly and then fall asleep, too exhausted to notice the effort she had put into making everything just right. She missed the days when they would spend time together, laughing and dreaming about the future. Now, it seemed that Thabo's work had taken over their lives, leaving little room for the love and companionship they once shared. Lerato often found herself sitting alone in their cozy home, wishing that Thabo could see how lonely she felt, wishing that he could make time for them to be together like they used to. One evening, after a long day of arranging flowers and hanging curtains for a new home in the village, Lerato sat down in her small living room with a book. She had tried many times to lose herself in stories, but her mind kept wandering to thoughts of how quiet and dull her life had become. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Lerato opened it to find Saifo, Thabo's younger brother, standing on the doorstep with a broad smile on his face. Saifo was full of life and energy, the complete opposite of Thabo. Lerato, he greeted her warmly. I was passing through and remembered that Thabo promised me a book. I thought I'd stop by and pick it up. Without hesitation, Lerato invited Saifo inside. They spent the evening talking, and for the first time in a long while, Lerato felt truly listened to. Saifo's lively conversation and genuine interest in her life made Lerato feel a sense of happiness she hadn't felt in years. When he finally left, Lerato realized that something within her had changed. The warmth of Saifo's visit stayed with her long after he was gone. As days went by, Saifo started visiting more frequently. Each time, Lerato found herself looking forward to their conversations, where they would talk about art, music, and the simple joys of life in the village. The more they talked, the more Lerato felt alive again. However, as her feelings for Saifo grew, so did her confusion. She knew that the bond forming between them was something deeper than friendship. One evening, after another visit from Saifo, Lerato sat alone in her home, wrestling with her emotions. She knew it was wrong to have feelings for Saifo, especially when she was married to his brother. But each time Saifo smiled at her, or touched her hand, she felt a spark that she hadn't felt in years with Thabo. The longing for affection and connection grew stronger each day, and Lerato struggled to keep her emotions in check. As the weeks passed, their meetings became more frequent and more intense. They started sharing secrets, dreams, and fears that they had never shared with anyone else. One evening, as they sat together in the dimly lit kitchen, Saifo gently placed his hand on Lerato's. She looked into his eyes and felt her heart race. That simple touch sparked a fire in her heart that she could no longer ignore. But just as quickly as the fire was lit, it was doused by a deep sense of guilt. Lerato pulled away, realizing that what she was feeling for Saifo was wrong. She was torn between her loyalty to Thabo and her growing affection for Saifo. The more she tried to resist her feelings, the stronger they became. One evening, when Thabo was working late again, Lerato heard a knock on the door. She opened it to find Saifo standing there, looking more handsome than ever in the soft glow of the evening light. I was just passing by, Saifo said with a smile. I thought I'd keep you company. Lerato hesitated for a moment, but the loneliness she had felt for so long overwhelmed her. She invited him in, and they sat together on the couch, watching a movie. But this time, something was different. Saifo sat closer than usual, and as the movie played, he gently placed his hand on the back of Lerato's neck, sending shivers down her spine. Her heart pounded as she felt his fingers graze her skin, and she could no longer deny the feelings she had been trying so hard to suppress. As the movie reached its climax, their eyes met, and in that moment, time seemed to stand still. Sifo leaned in, and their lips met in a soft, lingering kiss. It was a kiss filled with the passion and warmth that Lorato had been missing for so long. But as soon as it ended, guilt washed over her like a cold wave. Suddenly, there was another knock at the door. Lorato and Sifo quickly pulled away from each other, their hearts pounding in unison. Lorato opened the door to find Thabo standing there, looking tired from his long day of work. "I decided to come home early," he said with a weary smile, unaware of what had just happened. The next few days were a blur of emotions for Lorato. She was consumed with guilt and fear, knowing that she had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. But despite her attempts to distance herself from Sifo, their secret meetings continued. The more time she spent with Sifo, the more she realized how empty her life had been without the warmth of his love. But with each secret meeting came more anxiety and guilt. Lorato knew she was betraying Thabo, and the weight of that guilt became too much to bear. She decided to end things with Sifo, knowing it was the right thing to do. But when she told him, Sifo refused to let her go. "You can't deny what we have," he whispered as he pulled her close, his voice filled with longing. Lorato knew she had to be strong, but her resolve wavered as Sifo's lips found hers once again. The passion between them was undeniable, and she found herself giving in to the forbidden love they shared. But the more they gave in to their desires, the more complicated their lives became. One day, Lorato found a note in her mailbox. It was short and to the point, "I know what you're doing." Fear gripped her heart as she realized that someone had discovered their secret. Her mind raced with thoughts of who it could be. Was it one of the villagers? Or worse, had Thabo found out? The notes continued, and soon, the fear of being exposed consumed Lorato. She started to suspect everyone around her, even Sifo. She knew that Sifo had always struggled with money and had gotten into trouble with gambling. What if he was behind the notes, trying to blackmail her for money? But every time she saw him, he seemed as genuine and loving as ever. As the fear and guilt gnawed at her, Lorato knew she had to find out who was behind the notes. She couldn't live with the constant fear of being exposed. One evening, she confronted Sifo, but he denied knowing anything about the notes. Lorato wanted to believe him, but the doubt lingered in her heart. Finally, she devised a plan with a close friend named Mandler. They decided to set a trap for the blackmailer. Lorato agreed to meet the person who had been sending the notes, and Mandler would follow them to find out who it was. The night of the meeting, Lorato's heart pounded with fear and anticipation as she waited in the shadows. When the figure finally appeared to collect the money, Mandler jumped out, pointing a stick like a weapon at the stranger. "Stop right there," he shouted, his voice filled with authority. The stranger froze, and as Mandler approached, Lorato stepped forward to confront the person who had been tormenting her. She pulled back the hood, and her heart stopped when she saw Thabo standing before her. "Thabo," she whispered, her voice trembling with shock and disbelief. Thabo looked at her with cold, piercing eyes. "Yes, it's me," he said, his voice filled with bitterness. "I knew about you and Sifo from the beginning. I wanted you to feel the same fear and pain that I felt when I found out about your betrayal." Lorato's heart shattered as she realized the extent of Thabo's anger and hurt. He had orchestrated the entire blackmail scheme to punish her for her affair with Sifo. As the truth sank in, Lorato knew that she had destroyed not only her marriage but also the lives of the people she cared about. After that night, everything fell apart. Thabo filed for divorce, and Lorato was left to pick up the pieces of her shattered life. She moved into a small hut at the edge of the village, far from the home she had once shared with Thabo. There, she tried to start anew, but the guilt and sorrow weighed heavily on her heart. One day, as she was walking through the village, she ran into Thabo's mother, Gogo Nomsa. Gogo Nomsa had always been kind to Lorato, and seeing her now, Lorato broke down in tears. "Gogo, I've made such a mess of everything," Lorato sobbed, unable to hold back her emotions. Gogo Nomsa took her hand and said gently, "Lorato, we all make mistakes. What's important is that you forgive yourself and learn from what has happened." Lorato nodded, though she knew the road to forgiveness would be long and difficult. As she walked back to her small hut, she knew that she had a lot to learn about love, trust, and the consequences of her actions. And so, Lorato began her journey of healing and redemption. Each day, she would rise with the sun, the light filtering through the thatched roof of her hut, reminding her of the warmth she had once taken for granted. She knew that she had caused pain not just to the people of her village, but to herself as well. The path ahead was uncertain, but she was determined to walk it with a humble heart. The villagers, though still wary of her, noticed her efforts. Lorato would spend her days helping where she could, fetching water from the river, tending to the elders, and assisting the women in the fields. Her once proud and haughty demeanor was gone, replaced by a quiet determination to make amends. One day, as she was working in the fields, a young girl named Thandi approached her. Thandi was known for her kind heart and gentle spirit, and she had often watched Lorato from a distance, wondering what had changed the once arrogant girl into someone so humble. "Lorato," Thandi began, her voice soft, "why do you work so hard? Do you hope that the village will forgive you?" Lorato paused, wiping the sweat from her brow. She looked at Thandi and smiled, though there was a sadness in her eyes. "I work because it is the right thing to do, Thandi. I don't know if the village will ever forgive me, but I must try to make up for the pain I caused. I must learn to forgive myself, too." Thandi nodded thoughtfully. "My grandmother always says that forgiveness is like a seed. It needs time to grow. Maybe if you keep doing what you're doing, that seed will take root in the hearts of the people." Lorato smiled at the young girl's wisdom. "Perhaps you are right, Thandi. I will keep tending to that seed, even if I never see it blossom." Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The seasons changed, and with them, so did Lorato. The villagers, who had once shunned her, began to see the sincerity in her actions. Slowly, they started to accept her back into their lives, though the memory of her betrayal still lingered like a shadow. One evening, as the village gathered around the fire for a storytelling session, the elder, Gogo Nomvula, called for silence. She was a wise woman, with silver hair that shone like the moon and eyes that had seen many years. "Tonight," Gogo Nomvula began, her voice carrying the weight of countless stories, "we will hear a tale of redemption and the power of change." The villagers listened intently as Gogo Nomvula recounted the story of a young girl who had lost her way but found it again through humility and hard work. As the tale unfolded, the villagers began to realize that the story was about Lorato. When Gogo Nomvula finished, there was a silence, heavy with the weight of unspoken words. Then, to Lorato's surprise, one by one, the villagers began to speak. "I remember when Lorato helped me carry water when I was too tired to walk," one woman said. "She mended my fishing net without me even asking," a fisherman added. "She took care of my children when I was sick," another villager said. As the night went on, more and more villagers shared their stories of how Lorato had helped them. The atmosphere, once tense and filled with distrust, softened into something warm and forgiving. Finally, Gogo Nomvula spoke again. "Lorato, you have shown us that people can change. You have worked hard to make amends, and we have seen your efforts. It is time for us to forgive you, but only if you can forgive yourself." Tears welled up in Lorato's eyes as she stood before her village. "I have made many mistakes, and I have hurt many of you," she said, her voice trembling. "I cannot undo what I have done, but I have tried to be better. I ask for your forgiveness, but more than that, I ask for your understanding." The villagers nodded, and one by one, they approached Lorato, offering their forgiveness. Some embraced her, others simply nodded, but each gesture was a step towards healing. From that day on, Lorato was no longer the proud and selfish girl she once was. She had learned the value of humility, the importance of community, and the strength it takes to seek forgiveness. And though the road had been long and difficult, she had finally found her way back home, not just to her village, but to herself. As the years passed, Lorato became known as a wise and kind woman, someone who had learned from her mistakes and had grown into a better person because of them. The villagers would often tell the story of her transformation, not as a cautionary tale, but as a testament to the power of change and the possibility of redemption. And so, Lorato's story was passed down through the generations, a reminder that even the deepest wounds can heal, and that forgiveness, like a seed, can blossom into something beautiful when nurtured with care and love.